Welcome to Slay the Gatekeeper. I'm your host, Courtney Johnson, and I am here to un-gatekeep the gatekept. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy. Welcome, y'all. Welcome to Slay the Gatekeeper.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thanks. We're excited to be here.
Happy to have you. And I actually want to start our conversation with a Instagram post that our mutual friend Paul posted, and I wanted to get y'all's take on it. And this Instagram post said, psychedelics aren't alternative medicine. Pharmaceuticals are alternative. Nature is the original blueprint. So good.
Mm-hmm.
That is really good. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. This really is the original medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It's been used for eons, long before we were even here. So, it is so interesting how the perspective has really shifted in time. But the truth is that it is the original medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He always puts out goodies.
Yeah, he's got a great content strategy. So this podcast is all about un-gatekeeping, and something that frustrates me is that there's a lot of gatekeeping around psychedelics and microdosing in general. 100% of the successful entrepreneurs that I am friends with either regularly microdose or have had a lot of plant medicine experience, at least one or two major transformational plant medicine experiences. So 100% of these people I know are using this as a tool. 99% of them gatekeep it to the general public. They don't talk about it as their secret weapon. Why do you think it's gatekept?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, because I was literally just thinking that yesterday. I was thinking of just multiple people that I know that have used the
medicine. Even if you look at history, like our the most innovative scientists and entrepreneurs and builders and artists.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's shame around it. And I think that oftentimes people are worried about judgment. I can think of multiple, heavy hitters that anybody here would know that are customers, and they've never ever talked about it. And when I've talked to one of them about it, it's that they're worried about being canceled for it.
Wow.
I also think, the stigma with society of where psychedelics have been and where we are today, it's mainstream. It's trajected in such a beautiful, direction. But there's been a lot of fear around, legalities and things along those lines, where there is a lot of hesitancy of how public do I want to make this, or how often and how much do I want to share about my personal experience. And I think that has a lot to do with where it's been and the journey that we've arrived on. And I think there has been so much kind of unlocking, opening the gate and running through and sharing more because of all the studies, all the research, all the amazing data that's out today that's backing the science of the impact and the benefits and the value of these medicines. So there's so much that we can touch on with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was listening to a celebrity gossip podcast today, which I love a good celebrity podcast now and then. It's like candy to me. And the
brain food.
Yeah. The host of this podcast is very open and curious. And, anyways, she was saying, oh, this gossip, we found out that this celebrity one time dropped acid. Isn't that crazy? And I was like, wait, is that really crazy enough to say as gossip? And then also the fact that this person thinks that is a crazy thing to do. That's the craziest gossip that they could find about this person. Ooh, this is scandalous. It is crazy that it is scandalous.
Well, it is even on the way here, I was talking to the Uber driver. I talk to everybody. I'm just talking about psychedelics. What do you do? Work in psychedelics? And then it opens the conversation. But there is so much of that, almost when you start to talk to somebody about it, it's still in a whisper.
Yeah.
It's oh my God, should I be talking about this? And even though there's so much more out there about this now, I feel like we're still so much at the beginning of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I love that you bring up you have customers that are, doing big things in the world. And same, I go to conferences, ceremonies, events, all of this, and I'm seeing these people that I would never name publicly for their privacy, but they're doing big things. They're impactful leaders in our world, for sure. Yeah. So when we were talking about discussing this topic, y'all are both entrepreneurs and you have strong business backgrounds outside of the psychedelic world, then came into the psychedelic world. And I think a lot of times psychedelic professionals can come across to normal folks as like very woo-woo. I think you guys are coming at this from a very grounded perspective. So how can other psychedelic professionals relate to those that really need it, that maybe haven't tried it, without seeming, out of their realm, without seeming too woo-woo? Because I've definitely seen professionals that have trouble relating to the matrix world, and they can only relate in these like psychedelic circles. And I actually think that might be a problem if too many people can't relate to others.
Speaking my language, sister. Seriously.
Truly.
And really, that's what Golden Rule was created out of. It was created to bridge the gap. So to bridge the gap to help any everyday people feel comfortable to try this beautiful medicine. And, for me, I'm a 41-year-old mother living in the suburbs. And I really was thinking through, as we think of how to relate and how to speak to people about the medicine, I really think of it as like, how can I help that other soccer mom feel very comfortable to try this? And it really is going about it in a way of more of like a supplement, wellness supplement. I think that's very easy for people to be able to open their minds to, compared to a psychedelic, compared to even me calling it a medicine, really in some ways does create a disconnect for people. So when you're able to speak to it more in a language even that is more connected to what people are used to, you're going to have a better opportunity of opening that door.
Yeah, I would also add that when we think of psychedelics, and I think where a lot of the hesitancy or the shame that we're kind of speaking into can come from, is thinking of it as like hippies. And not that anything's wrong with that. We love hippies. We all, embody that in our own ways. But that's been kind of the stigma around psychedelics. And now, because of all the data and the research and the mainstream that we kind of spoke into, there's this whole opportunity for peak performance and innovative ideas to come forward through working with psychedelics, or working with them in a way where it's therapeutic and it's holistic. And I think that is really grounding it in a lot of ways for people to be a lot more open and to have these new perspectives around how they're working with them in these specific ways.
And because we're not gatekeeping, I'm also going to share this. Is that, you have to think, again, how does that other person think?
Right.
So when the brand looks really, really trippy, which I totally get because I've had some amazing trips, in that, it's so colorful and different, shapes and visions come through. And so I get why people make the branding in that way. But you have to think, like, that's weird to somebody who's never experienced that. And that creates a disconnect. So again, not only in language, but in visual, how can you create something that makes people feel comfortable compared to in especially a space that people already feel a little uneasy about? You need to be able to make them feel safe in that space.
That's really smart. So it's the branding, it's the messaging, it's how we're approaching it. And of course, I know this is quite binary, but let's say we have like the hippies and the normies. There's in our branding and in our messaging, we're communicating with either of those audiences, and there's always going to be great resources and tools for the hippies. They got it. They got it under control. They got the access.
They got it under wraps.
Yes. But what I'm desiring is that more of our business leaders, economic leaders, political leaders can have these experiences and, heal their shame, trauma, become more embodied and lead from the heart.
Absolutely. And, our hope is that everybody has the opportunity to try this, to, in whatever way they need it in their lives. And so, I think to some people, they might think if you're bringing it down to the level of it's just a wellness supplement, or, and taking away the medicine part, and you're kind of taking away maybe some of its power and its beauty, and people have a hard time with that. But if you're able to switch your perspective and look, but what if you can open the door to so many more people? That's really what it's about. So just shifting perspective.
Yeah, my top most important core value is impact, having positive impact. And I always say, like, having the most amount of positive impact is the core value in my life that I would give up other values for. And one of the values I would give up for that is what you're saying. Like, I know that the messaging of medicine is really important, and I will talk about that in some circles, but I'm not going to talk about that to a client because I know that will immediately turn them away. So I care more about the positive impact superseding being right or being like as honorable as I can.
Totally.
Okay, this brings us into our first cheat code, which is microdosing for business leadership. So I'm curious, how can psychedelics impact leadership and business, or maybe business success? And I will share, I've shared it on my podcast a lot, but microdosing has helped me tremendously in my own business.
Such a good topic, microdosing in business. It's so good. So what comes to mind initially is the science of how it's possible that it's breaking open and allowing these new creative ideas and these new innovative ideas and problem solving and connection with your team and really claiming more of that power and openness within yourself, getting more present with yourself, but also being a better leader in your life, in your business. And so a lot of that comes from, if we work obviously with psychedelics, if we work with microdosing as an example, the neuroplasticity that's happening in our brains. So it's creating new neural pathways. It's opening up current pathways for those to streamline more clearly. When our brains are in a more neuroplastic state, it's more plastic, it's more malleable, which allows us to be a lot more open and adaptive to making changes. So if you think of business and you think of new ideas or problem solving, and you're working on a project and you have a plan and things are going well and you feel a little stuck, or something wants to come unlocked, or a new idea that can really accelerate that maybe hasn't found its way in, all of a sudden these new pathways are creating these new perceptions of viewing it, where all of a sudden now new things might be coming into the room. And so that's just one way. Obviously it creates so much connection. It lowers fear responses with the amygdala and the default mode network starting to get really quiet in the mind. That's a very anxiety, fearful kind of driven response. And that's so productive when it comes to business and leadership and harmonizing things within a team dynamic.
Tiffany's our science gal. And
I'm the scientist.
I'm the storyteller. So for me personally, it's just truly helped my leadership journey. And, one of my first entrepreneurial journeys was I started this. I used to have Colorado's largest fitness festival. And I rented out this whole stadium and all the streets around it and brought on this big team. And I still had so much growth to do in my own leadership. And what that really came down to was I needed more awareness. I needed more awareness of myself. And so really plant medicine was a huge impact in that for me, because we went throughout that whole entire festival and it was amazing and so good. And I went to my team afterwards and I said, hey guys, let's go do this again. And every single one of them was like, no, thanks. And it was just like this instant, this mirror. And it really brought me to all the places that I still needed to work on myself. And as I was working with plant medicine through my leadership journey, it's just brought me so much more empathy, so much more compassion, and awareness in how I'm showing up and who I'm being in the world. And also understanding others on a deeper level, which is so important in leadership, as well as just opening my mind in creative ways, because so much of entrepreneurship is solving problems. So when you're able to open your mind and see things in so many more perspectives, you are able to succeed in much bigger ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I co-sign on all of those benefits. It's helped me so much. And yeah, leadership, emotional intelligence, creativity, finding creative solutions that you would have never, ever thought about before. It's wild. Okay, next cheat code is microdosing as a possible alternative to SSRIs. Tiffany, you got off Lexapro and Adderall through microdosing. I got off of Vyvanse through microdosing. Tell me about that journey.
Gosh, that's such a journey. So I was in the corporate world at the time, business leadership, executive roles in the medical industry, and high stress levels, anxiety. You pair that with, childhood trauma, and it all kind of comes together at once and kind of hits you in the face when things aren't going in a way that feels fulfilling, essentially. So on both of those medications, and I was doing the work. I was in personal development. I was in therapy. I'm very type A, Division I basketball background, and am really self-driven, and was confused as to how I was feeling so unfulfilled when I was feeling challenged and, all the sorts of things in the career that I was in. While the personal development and the therapy was amazing, I knew that there was a part of me that just like wasn't accessing the depth of the patterns and the roots of like the thing that was holding it all together. And so I started to hear about psychedelics, and this was, over 9 years ago, where nothing was mainstream. There was nothing on the internet really, and did enough research and enough education to feel connected to it. And I had access to it, which is always really helpful, and put myself on a protocol. And within 3 months, I was like, you know what? I'm getting off these medications. I'm going to go deeper into the root of what's creating this. And within 3 months, I was off. And, obviously, when we're taking medication, it suppresses so much of our authenticity, our truth, our emotions. And there was a part of me that was really shut down in that experience. And now, all of a sudden, when that's removed, the medication is removed, and there's this beautiful medicine like microdosing that does the opposite and amplifies and brings things to the surface. All of a sudden, I'm starting to navigate and process a lot of those beautiful experiences that wanted to be seen, wanted to be heard, wanted to be felt, wanted to be expressed. And so not only was that my experience, but I was like, you know what? I got to really look at the career that's the sole root of the lack of fulfillment of a big area in my life right now. And so I started to coach people with microdosing, and obviously did a lot of education and trainings to arrive in that place. But I started with coaching people and teaching them how to microdose, how to work with the medicine, how to bring in modalities, how to optimize and really intentionally work with the practice. That led into facilitation. Did that for about 6 years. And then I was like, you know what? I want to bring in my business background, pair these together. And so all that to say, it opened up this whole new path of me not only stepping into my purpose and my truth and like really owning what it's like to hear my own voice, but to also make one of the biggest changes in my life, my career, into something that was completely more fulfilling. And so it's really opened up so much for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you bring up fulfillment and career path, because that's common.
It's it.
Yeah, a very common thing that happens to people is they're like, oh shit, I am not serving the people I want to serve. I'm not in the right career. I'm not doing what I actually feel aligned to do. And that can be scary. It can be scary to be like, oh
It's
no.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah. If I start microdosing, am I going to quit my whole career? And the truth is, maybe.
If that's the thing that wants to come through, it's possible.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm also curious, why did you guys both choose to create businesses and coaching and stuff around microdosing rather than macrodosing or ceremonies? I don't think there's a lot of, at least I don't see a lot of microdosing support and help. I mean, I'm very plugged into the psychedelic community. I've maybe met 5 people that do it.
Yeah, and that was a part of why I started to work and teach people from a business perspective how to microdose, because if I think back to my personal journey, I was like, where is this information? And how do you do this? And where do you start? And even beyond that, as I was deepening into the practice of having this great experience, there were still so many questions and lack of resources at the time that I was like, why don't I just bring this more to the space? And that was a part of it. And then, obviously there's so many other things in the psychedelic world that now have all those resources, which is amazing. But with Golden Rule specifically, also bringing in macrodosing. So starting with microdosing as a beautiful way of working with psychedelics. It's like the opening the door and coming out of the psychedelic closet and working with microdosing. Usually what we find is that naturally starts to connect people obviously more deeply into themselves, but to have a desire to go more deeper into that experience, feel more open to go and work with the macrodose. And so that's what we also offer, with Golden Rule, is that support and at-home experiences, not like heroic doses, but enough to go more deeper into, some processing that might feel good for you.
Yeah. Microdosing is it's just such an easier way for people to feel comfortable to walk through the door. Yeah. I think it's just, and you can have profound changes just through microdosing. For a lot of people, I think that's what scares them, is having those macrodoses or tripping, or, that they're going to feel out of their body or out of sorts, and they don't want that. So I think there's a better opportunity to have more people have the access through something like microdosing, for sure.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's doing large doses is obviously intimidating. So it's much easier. And there's a lot of microdosing protocols and doses that offer a sub-perceptual experience where you're not actually feeling anything at all. Maybe you notice that you're more calm. You notice that you're more, creative, just like maybe you had a good workout or you did a good yoga class before you started work. And that's kind of the feeling. So I think that's important to communicate too. You can do this without feeling anything at all. I'm sure people now are curious too about Golden Rule. Do you want to share a little bit about the origin and your mission?
Yeah. So the origin really is from really creating that bridge. So really, how do we help anybody and everybody access the medicine? And that's what I'm calling it. But I do know this wellness supplement. Like, how do we do that? And through, for both of us, we've both had our own transformations through using the supplement. And so it's been really that. It's like, how do we offer this to anybody and everybody? And, at the surface level, it is a products company, but it is so much more than that. I have a hard time, honestly, saying it's a products company because it is helping people with, yes, leadership and wellness, but also PTSD, OCD, anxiety, depression. I mean, we get emails from people every single day saying how it's just completely changed their lives. Maybe they were suicidal and now they're not, or they were on different medications that just made them feel numb. And now they're really experiencing life. And so like, that's the drive. The drive is for people to live a more elevated life in the most beautiful way. And truly that is available to anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would say, going off, like, it's not just a product company. It's one thing to have a beautiful product, and this is with any business depending on the type of business, but it's especially when we're talking about psychedelics, is how to work with that product, how to optimize the way that it can accelerate and support you in reaching your goals, reaching your intentions, the things that you really desire in your life. And so much of that is through education, running programs, running educational community calls, like really informing people how to work with something that can really, if we're talking about healing anxiety, alleviating PTSD, what that does for people's lives, that changes them on that surface level. It changes their entire life when you can start to cultivate and develop a different relationship with something that's holding so much levity of the way that you live your life. And so that's, Golden Rule. It's what we really stand on.
Yeah. The education part is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So not only do you have this product, but you're guiding people, you have education, you have resources, so they're not going in blindly. They feel supported. What are some of the common protocols that people can do?
Yeah, so there's the OG, the Fadiman protocol, which is microdosing every 3 days. There's a lot of data and research backed on that protocol. It's a great place for beginners. There's Paul Stamets protocol, which is psilocybin, niacin, and lion's mane, 4 days on, 3 days off. That one's phenomenal. A lot of data and research as well. There's a lot of protocols that have found their way into the market. There's the workday protocol, there's the weekend protocol, and I love those. And I think they're amazing for a lot of people that, like we're talking peak performers, innovators, leaders, CEOs, where you want to really hone in on projects and be so much more dialed in and efficient with the work that you're doing throughout the week. Amazing. 4 days on or 5 days on, 2 days off on the weekend. But a lot of it, what we find is with people that, start to experience psychedelics, is you just start to intuitively microdose. You start to learn, okay, how does, psilocybin interact and impact me, and what responses that create in my body compared to microdosing with LSD? What doses between those two create those different experiences for what I'm looking to achieve and experience that day? So much of that comes with understanding how it's impacting you, and then you can select and choose. Okay, I have this specific thing that I'm looking to focus on this day. I know that this specific medicine and this dose usually creates that experience.
I would say anybody first starting out, though, always do a protocol for at least 30 to 90 days, preferably 90 days. And it's really important to get in the routine and really important to get it in your body and get it working. And eventually, yes, you're right. People more start to go intuitively because your intuition is lit. You're just like, I know now.
Well, and it's the consistency, right? So many people going back to being sub-perceptual, non-intoxicating. So you're not tripping, you're not seeing trees that are moving with smiley faces, hopefully not. You can drive a car, you can take your children to work, you can do all things life. But so many people, especially that are new to microdosing, will stop because they don't feel anything or they don't notice anything. And the consistency is really where it is. 3 to 4 times a week, 30 days minimum, 90 days maximum. And yeah. Yeah.
You know that feeling when nobody really gets what you're going through, when you're surrounded by all of these people, but you're somehow still feel alone? I lived that reality for years until I discovered the power of healing in community. Reinvigorate and Restore is a luxury 6-day retreat in Cape Town designed specifically for women who are ready to move beyond survival mode to begin living your best life truly and authentically. Imagine 6 days in Cape Town, April 14th through 19th, by the way, in a luxurious villa where everything is designed for your restoration. Morning yoga overlooking the mountains, sound healing sessions, authentic connection with people who understand your journey without explanation. Imagine 6 days with people who truly get it, who see you, hear you, and walk alongside you in your healing journey. Time is limited, so book your spot for April. Again, the retreat is April 14th through 19th, and you can visit survivorsriseretreat.com to book a call with Paula to learn more. Your people are waiting for you. Nexus Point is a best-in-class outsourcing company that helps business owners and entrepreneurs scale efficiently and profitably by leveraging the global talent pool. Founded by entrepreneurs like yourselves, Nexus Point uses its vast infrastructure to find, hire, and train best-in-class talent from around the globe. At just 20% of the cost of hiring locally, Nexus Point will provide you with pre-vetted talent with college degrees and at least 3 years of work experience, often with US-based business owners. From executive assistants to social media managers, customer service reps, data entry and research analysts, and other back-office functions, Nexus Point can help take you and your business to the next most profitable level yet. Use the special link or mention Slay the Gatekeeper and have the $500 search fee completely waived. Delegation is so important, but it can be so hard to find the right talent. So I highly recommend checking out Nexus Point. Again, you can book a call at go.nexuspt.io/Courtney Johnson or visit the link in the show notes. Today's episode is sponsored by my Sunrise Content Club. I created Sunrise Content Club because I really desired accountability in my content creation. How it works is we meet on Zoom every single weekday from 8 to 9 a.m. We get on the Zoom, we play some fun music, we have a little mindful moment, and then I give you a content prompt. And we spend about 45 minutes working on this prompt together. In this time, you can ask questions, get feedback on your content. And at the end, we all share our wins and we also share our content that we have created during that time. So we all get an initial boost because we are liking and commenting on each other's posts. There's also a really fun and supportive group chat where you can ask questions, share your content, get accountability. The Sunrise Content Club is an incredible way to stay consistent in your content creation and have community support. It is especially helpful with folks with ADHD who find value in body doubling. For a very limited time, you can join the Sunrise Content Club for just $99 a month. This is a very special limited time founders rate, and I am so excited to see you guys there. Join the Sunrise Content Club today. Yeah, I would definitely say my microdosing is very intuitive now. But the very first time I ever microdosed, it was with psilocybin, and I had done like journeys before, but this is the first time I microdosed, and I took it, and just after like 2 hours, I'm like, I don't feel anything. This isn't working.
Mhm.
And then I took more, and then I started crying over like how beautiful a blueberry was in my yogurt. And I'm like, I guess it's working. Fuck. So yeah, don't take too much. I wish I would have had a protocol when I started to ease into it rather than accidentally crying over blueberries for like 3 hours.
It served. It served. If that's what it took for you to know that this is not placebo, then congratulations.
What do you guys see as like the future of microdosing? Do you think this is something that maybe like a psychiatrist would prescribe you, or a therapist, or there's groups and support? What's your dream for the future?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is definitely where it's going next.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right now in Colorado, we're seeing centers open up right and left because they're handing out their certificates. It's decriminalized. And so it's really in that therapeutic realm. And therapists also in Colorado will be able to, there's other places as well. We're seeing that change every single day. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's where it's going first. I think it'll be a long time before before it's like a weed dispensary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over the counter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it'll be a ways.
I do think it's definitely already here and on its way, and will continue to track forward of being, the holistic alternative to pharmaceutical medication. I think there's been so much data and research and visibility and awareness and people's experiences being shared, of even mine, of tapering off medication, and this being not only an alternative to tapering off SSRI or SNRI medication, but also a holistic route to even getting on them. And that makes me so happy and excited for the future of that being the possibility, because so much of our population and society think that that is the only way to heal anxiety, depression, ADHD, etc. Or even, high stress levels and things like that when you're working at a career that is just so fast paced, for example. To have an option of something that's natural, that's holistic, that is not addictive, and has these incredible benefits for the brain and the body, it's like, come on, it's a no-brainer. And I think that's here, and it's going to stay, and it's just going to continue to progress.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that you will just be able to walk into the store and buy like a wellness supplement, because ultimately, especially at a microdosing level, it is.
Yeah.
So, it seems silly. You can't.
Yeah.
But that is my hope, is that you will just be able to buy it like any other wellness supplement right there at, I don't know, Whole Foods.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. I see that. I see that in the future. Like the amazing thing about psychedelics and plant medicine is it's very, very hard to abuse them. And I know that's what comes up. It's like, oh, these are drugs. We don't want people abusing them. You try abusing psilocybin, see what happens to you. Like
psilocybin will abuse you.
It will abuse you.
You won't want to. Yeah.
You don't want to. Like every time I hear people say that, I'm like, I want to see you try. I want to try. I want to see you get addicted to heroic doses of psilocybin. You can't. It'll kick you out.
Yeah, 100%. And it's actually scientifically proven that it is non-physically addictive, which is amazing. So
yeah,
that's super awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, next cheat code. Ooh, Rachel, NLP. I want to know about how you use NLP as a cheat code in your business and your life with your clients.
Well, I became a master of neurolinguistic programming because I became obsessed with how the brain works. I remember I went to my very first Joe Dispenza retreat, week long, and it just led me down this whole entire path. So I got super into NLP, and essentially what that is you have all these filters in your brain, like folders. And we store information in them in different ways through sight, sound, tastes, and they're all stored in there in memories, habits, behaviors, beliefs. And so how I really worked with that with my clients when I had clients in the past, that's not the case anymore, has been of really helping them rearrange those folders and pull different folders out. Oddly and not oddly at all is that psychedelics work very similarly.
Yeah.
And so they work beautifully together. In fact, I know a lot of people who are working with people with psychedelics. They are in NLP, they'll be masters of neurolinguistic programming, because when the brain is in that neuroplastic state, you are able to move those folders around very easily in a lot easier way. But before psychedelics were really the path for me, it really was, and this is what I do for my own life and how I utilize it, is me really utilizing it in meditation. So really going into a deep meditation and rewiring and reprogramming an experience that essentially will create the outcome of whatever I'm looking for. So yeah, that's how I use it.
Yeah, you had a post that said most things you believe are just made up stories. Tell me about that.
Well, that's true. I mean, actually, I was listening. Oh, man, I can't remember who actually was on this podcast, but just essentially that everything that we remember isn't even true. And so, we place these memories in our brain, and they just are a formulation of one perspective, which is so interesting, because right now you're having your own perspective and your own experience, and you're having your own perspective and your own experience. And I am too. And so, a lot of what we program in our brains, or what our memories are, essentially are just that. They're just one perspective of infinite possibilities. Yeah.
Wow. That's so powerful. Yeah, for the listeners, if you haven't heard of NLP, it's a really amazing tool. I've had a few NLP coaches, but my boyfriend ordered an NLP book as he was learning it. I opened it, and the first page, this is how powerful this is. I've seen firsthand how powerful it is because I've used it in my own life. But I opened to the first page of this book, and it's warning, do not use, by buying this book, you are consenting to not use this for evil or for marketing or for sales or for dating or for blah, blah, blah. That is what you're agreeing to if you're going to read this book. And I'm just wow, that is such a powerful tool that this author had to leave a disclaimer of please do not use this, because it is so fucking powerful.
Wow.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And, a good example of this is Tony Robbins. He uses NLP all the time. And I really believe he's using it for the good. But he, during his conferences, is constantly programming you through everything that he does, through the words that he says, through the sounds that he does, through how he has you move your body, and constantly programming you in. You can program somebody into an experience just through using a sound, and they may not even realize what's happening.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
Yeah, that's wild.
I love that. I love the sneaky shit. I have this course. I do this every quarter, and it's a live cohort-based course about LinkedIn. And nice, right? You're oh, boring. That's just a LinkedIn class. I'm going to learn how to optimize their profile. No, it's all about the fear of being seen. And I help people overcome the fear of being seen. But they don't really know that until after they've gone through. And then they're wait, why am I crying? Why do I have this? I'm totally questioning my entire career path. And I'm ha, 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 ha.
Yes.
Yes. And I bring in other modalities, other subconscious reprogramming into this course. But it's just really funny because yeah, I think if I were to position it as woo-woo, people wouldn't do it because this is all corporate sales folks, or founders or whatever. But when they're there, they're wow, I didn't expect I had someone being I didn't expect this giant emotional release and identity crisis after hour one. And I'm ha ha ha. I'm doing that intentionally.
If I told you, then the fear of being seen you would be too fear of being seen.
Well, people, they wouldn't show up just out of the fear of change.
I love that for you.
Exactly. Anyways, I think that's so fun. It's seducing people for good.
Yes, exactly. And I love how you just did that with your hands. It's
I just felt seduced.
Love it. Okay, another cheat code that I found on your Instagram, Rachel, was reframing.
Yeah, so reframing is it's very simple in that it's just a perspective shift. So, I am helping my daughter, who's 12 years old, constantly reframe all day long.
What's an example?
So, my life sucks. I just laugh because, if you have a preteen, you'll totally know that yes is constant. My life sucks. It's so horrible. This is the worst day of my life. This is the worst day of my life. Okay, let's talk about that. And really, it's creating that perspective shift in what was great today. Right. And helping her see it in a different way, in a different perspective, and reframing the phrase, this was the worst day of my life. Right. How do you shift that, even just that phrase? But really, it comes from first helping people see it from a different perspective. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a really good one, like how to shifting the phrase to another phrase. Let's all come up with one.
Yeah, let's think about one.
A lot of it can be like affirmation work too.
Ooh, I feel like one is I need to versus I get to.
Yes.
Or I have to.
I have
get
to, yeah.
Yeah. Or like not like a either or, but a both end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, eliminating should from your vocabulary, big game changer.
She's throwing it down right now. These are really good reframes. So it's like, it's truly super simple, but it's all in the way that we say things really can change your whole entire life in so many aspects. Because, if you're constantly saying, I have to go to work, I get to go to work. Whoa, like the gratitude in that and the excitement in that from I have to I get to, that is like, so good.
Yeah. So powerful.
So powerful. Yes.
Have you guys read Existential Kink?
I've heard about it, but I have
the
not.
Name I want to.
I've heard great things about that, actually. Yeah.
I was on a road trip last week with some girlfriends, and we listened to it on an audiobook. It was my second time reading it, and I haven't read it in a few years, but something that stood out was it talked about NLP, and it was like, let's say I'm like, this is the worst day ever. There's almost like some part of us that kind of like feels a lot of comfort and like kind of loves feeling like pouty and like it feels really comfortable. So it was saying that next time you feel like, oh, this is the worst day ever, I suck, everything sucks, start to like enjoy that, like that you're feeling bad and be like, ooh, this is fun. Like I'm like a pouty girl. And then imagine cheerleader elephants jumping up and down and being like, yay, you noticed it, and just try to notice when you like feel good about being grumpy or negative, and then it becomes a lot easier to then correct it because you've clocked that like, oh, this is kind of kinky that I feel good about it. Anyway, so that's been something I've been working on.
I'm going to use that with my daughter.
It's a somatic
That was
shift.
so good.
Yeah. That's really good.
You're an NLP master over there, Missy.
I would love to actually learn or take a class or learn from someone because...
Well, you sound like you know a lot.
I just like words. I'm a writer.
Okay.
I see the power of words.
Yeah.
They are so powerful.
Yeah, and that is a huge part of NLP, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, my last cheat code also comes from Rachel is this idea of peaceful profits. Can you explain a little bit about this and how you can be calm and embodied and, in flow? Because I think a story that a lot of people have, if they want to follow their dream or be an entrepreneur or artist or whatever, they have to work harder and be more intense and crazier and more busy.
Yeah. So a lot of that's come for me just around learning how to be in the power of just being in that. Yeah, I was so addicted to really feeling like the only way I could be successful is exactly what you just said, is like going hard all the time. But what I found is that the quieter I've gotten, actually the further it's taken me. And oftentimes when you push harder, I mean, you're not allowing life to unfold in so many ways. And when you allow yourself to sit and surrender and fully trust that you are being guided, and I can't amplify the word surrender enough, because there's this control thing when we're pushing, all that is control, and it's fear. And so when you can step away from that control and that fear and really step into a place of trust and surrender and allowing yourself to actually hear yourself speak, to actually hear what's going on in yourself, you're going to have much more powerful ways of, overcoming whatever obstacles in front of you instead of, allow the obstacle to unfold and allow yourself to see exactly how to get through it instead of running up to that obstacle and just going and constantly falling and being pushed back and trying to go at it again.
Mhm.
Right. So it's just a different way of creating profits in your life. But I believe a much more peaceful way.
Mm.
And I think that even sometimes people maybe just hearing me say that right now, they might find, if you found resistance to that in some way, it's ultimately there's something in there that has been programmed so deeply that it's only done this one way, right? But the truth is that there's infinite ways. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think we need more leaders that are leading from that place of like calm, flow, embodiment.
Yeah.
And I feel like especially for women, if you're pushing, you're like in the penetrative masculine energy, and it can really you can almost like white knuckle it if you're a dude. If you're a
Yeah.
woman, it's gonna be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna burn yourself out. And I think that's I stopped taking productivity advice from men because it is different.
It is.
Mhm.
It is. And I think a lot of us are stepping deeper back into our feminine energy,
Yeah.
which I think for many who has been more in this masculine energy, because I totally have,
Mhm.
the transition into being more feminine has been at times extremely uncomfortable for me.
Mhm.
It really has been a transformation because so much of it has been programmed into like, it's only done this way and this is the only way I'm going to be successful, or, I can only show up in this way. And as I've changed and switched and embodied more of my feminine, it's also created more of an identity shift for me, which we all know is super uncomfortable for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think was the catalyst for that?
Yeah. So it really was me as a mother. I truly missed the first half of my kids' lives because I was so busy running multiple businesses and chasing, in my head, I'm like, I'm doing this for my family. I got to push harder. I got to go harder. And I would work super duper late into the evening and, wake up. I just missed so much. I missed so much. And every single night I'd go to bed, my number one regret for the day was that I didn't spend enough time with my kids. And I was just in this cycle, though. Then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd do the same thing over again. And then I go to bed and I feel regret. And I actually went and I did a ceremony, sat with plant medicine, a large dose. And in that, I really felt my kids. I felt their pain. Like I really felt all that I was missing out on, and I saw myself constantly living in this cycle. And so it really showed me that the only way for me to shift that, the only way for me to experience something different, is I had to remove myself from, like, I had to embody this beautiful feminine energy. And it wasn't like I walked out of that ceremony and it was like the next day I'm like, I'm done. It really was me constantly being in awareness of what this feminine energy really was, and really stepping into an embodiment of it and in how I live my every single day life. And so that was, I just share that because that for me personally was the wake up moment. But it was learning it over time, how to embody more of this feminine energy. It took me a while to actually do that.
Yeah. My experience was not easy too. It was like I knew, I don't know, I had some just like something come over me and I'm like, I need to work with like a feminine embodiment coach, learn about feminine energies. And I was so resistant to it. I was like, fuck this every day. I'm not doing it. And then I'm like, I'm just going to try this for like 2 months to see what happens. And then my business blew up and everything everything was amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. I want to see a future where there's more like feminine leaders. Like there's more female leaders that are coming from embodied feminine perspective rather than right now a lot of the female leaders are just like mimicking the men, dressing like the men, talking like the men, like just copying the men's processes, whatever. Like I just really want to see more examples of that. Tiffany, have you had an experience of feminine embodiment or masculine feminine energies?
I have, yes. I'm just sitting here like thinking of all these different experiences. And I did a lot of John Wineland work. A lot of people love his work. A lot of people have their own opinions with his work, but a lot of it was helping me get more into my feminine, and such as what all of you are sharing. So uncomfortable, but so expansive and so opening. And I also was working with ayahuasca a lot, and that's a grandmother plant medicine intelligence, and that medicine really opened me up to my feminine in a lot of ways of softening and opening and playing and allowing my body to like move in these ways that felt so rigid and so stuck and so masculine, you know? And when I really was able to unpack like what is that all about for me, it's childhood, safety, mechanisms, you know, growing up needing things to be a certain way, taking responsibility at a young age. And so all those masculine archetypes, so to speak, just carried with me into my life. Even Division I basketball, masculine, very masculine. And so quite honestly, working with psychedelics has really allowed me to tap more deeply into my feminine in so many ways. Even if you look at my background in the corporate world, so masculine, go, 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 very male dominant, never stop, always just the next thing, what's next, and not even really having a time to really acknowledge the feminine essence in me of what does she want? Who is she? What does she desire? And so a lot of that work coming all together was really even just simplifying it to the fact of asking myself those questions. What do you desire? What do you need? And a lot of that came through sexual expression for me, where there was always there was a lot of shame for me sexually, and I never understood where that came from. And we can bring in sexual trauma, and of course that's a part of it. But I'm like, why is this shame? I'm so comfortable with this person. Like, what is this shame really about? And a lot of it was me not understanding how to, one, tap into even asking myself what I want. What do I need? What do I like? What do I desire? And so that was hard for me to ask those questions. It was so hard to come up with the answers of what was true. And so the more that I leaned into that, as uncomfortable as it was, it fucking changed my life. Like everything changed. Everything changed. Yeah.
So beautiful.
And it's a practice, like constantly coming back to it, because we can easily get stuck in that other path. It's like, hold on a second. Let's go back to that thing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so expansive. It's like creation energy.
It's creation
energy. The most
energy.
powerful energy in the universe.
It's magnetic, like your feminine power, like creating. Like I always thought creating from like the masculine portal was like the thing. That was it. That's what I learned. That's what I knew. But when I create from like that feminine, soft power fucking essence, it is so potent and so clear and so felt. Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
My disclaimer for all the listeners, I say this every time I talk about feminine and masculine energies on the podcast, because I think it's important to state, doesn't matter your gender expression, we all have feminine and masculine energies. You can play with them, lean into whatever you want. I think what we're talking about is a lot of times the feminine energy has been pushed down in our society. We have so much masculine energy and there's so much power in the feminine energy. And I think a lot of people say like, well, that's misogynistic or that's not feminist. It's like, girl, what's not what's misogynistic is the fact that we are, as women, rewarded for our masculine energies, and our inherent feminine traits are seen as lesser than, are suppressed. And that's really where a lot of our power comes from. So if you can learn to tap into that power and play with that energy and power, even if it's uncomfortable, like there is so much power there. Life changing. Okay, I have one more question for y'all. I'm very curious. What is the target audience for Golden Rule? And are there any like pockets or cultures that you see microdosing really take off in? Like, I think we've seen it in the tech cold plunge bros. We see it pretty much everywhere in Austin. But is it up and coming with moms or older people, or what are you seeing as far as audiences or groups?
I would say the age range we mostly see is like 30 to 50. Really decent split in men and women. And then, oh man, people of all walks of life. Oh my goodness.
The mom, the CEO.
Yeah. I mean,
all of it.
A lot of moms, definitely. I really feel like created a big curiosity there. But gosh, I just think about everybody, and it truly is such different. It really, there's just not one area.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many different ways to work with it, right? It's like there's the therapeutic component, and that's reached so many therapeutic components of, PTSD, addiction, anxiety, depression, things along those lines. And then you have this whole like optimized peak performance that brings in a completely different audience at times. Leaders, CEOs, innovators, people in the wellness space. So it's really beautiful to see how there's these different ways of working with it. And I think that the way that we educate and teach and just the products that we have really are intended to reach all walks of life, depending on how you specifically want to work with it, what medicine and how you want to work with it, and what you want to experience and receive.
That's amazing. Is there any audiences you want to work more with? You'd be like really excited if they come to you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I would like to see probably more leaders coming into our space. I would like to see more of that, because we're all leaders.
Yeah.
Right? So I say that very lightly. We are all leaders. It's just, how ready are you to access that part of you? So whether you're looking to access that part of you, or you're, a leader in a company, you're a leader in your family, you're a leader in your friendships, and you want to just elevate that part of you, I would love to see more of that come in. Yeah.
Cool.
I personally would love to see, so yes, amen. And I would love to see more police officers, firefighters, military.
Yeah.
My husband
Politics, politicians. Yep.
Yeah. My husband is ex-military, 6 years Army infantry, and then 10 years police.
Wow.
And so he left a few years ago. But, we're very deeply connected into that space, and it's just so needed, and I think there's a lot more PTSD there than even people working those positions would like to admit. And I really think that also it could create so much more empathy and compassion in that space. And so, I mean, I'm reaching for the stars.
I literally just got goosebumps. Like, first of all, our first responders, like the trauma they see. Oh my God, I can't imagine. My partner is a surgeon, but he did his residency in trauma surgery in North Philly. And just like the stories of like the gunshots in the ER and the kids coming in like dying. They can't even imagine. So
firefighters,
police.
Firefighters have one of the highest suicide rates that there are.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, because they're oftentimes the first on the scene.
Yeah.
And they do. So there is a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah. Want to get this in the hands of our first responders. That's beautiful. That's amazing that your partner has a, I'm sure is well connected and being such a leader in this too.
Well, even in the medical space, right? If I think to the medical field that I was in, and even what you just shared, is those that are prescribing medication to their patients, having this, be something that they work with so that they have the mind shift of an alternative, although that's what they were trained in to prescribe in this specific way. But now they have this other option to include. That alone could be so healing for so many people.
That would be so amazing. It's happening slowly.
It is.
I think so. I'm seeing like prescribing of cannabis instead of opiates a lot now for pain, and I think that's a good first step.
Yeah, it is.
Beautiful. Well, what's next for Golden Rule? Do you guys have any exciting new things coming up? Maybe some exciting containers you're hosting? Any goals? What's next for y'all?
Well, we did just launch a blueprint, and so it's beautiful Tiffany right here, and it's 51 videos. They're short videos, and it really walks people through the whole microdosing and macrodosing journey. And so I really think that you can get that anytime, but it is pretty new to Golden Rule, and just if you're a beginner, that is a great way to go to learn. We do run a 30-day microdosing experience. And so, bringing people in and really, if you want to have your hand held through the experience, it is the best way to go about it. We only run that a couple times a year. And then, just continuing to get out there and, if you email us, we're getting back to you and we're going to help you. And oftentimes it's, again, amazing Tiffany right here. She's just so educated and helps so many people through whatever their need is. And so, and then continuing to be innovative in the space.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, how can people find each of you, and then how can people find Golden Rule?
Yeah, so personal Instagram, I am Tiffany Hurd. What is yours?
Rachel.pastor.
We should have this part down by now. Sometimes we do. Website is goldenrulemushrooms.com. Instagram handles Golden Rule Microdose and then Golden Rule Mushrooms. And then our email, customer service email, hello@goldenrulemushrooms.com.
Beautiful. So that's the best place to go for any questions.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. This is so great.
Thank you for having us. You have great questions.
Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy Austin.
Thanks so much.
Yay. This is amazing. Okay, y'all, if you liked this episode, you would love my Patreon, okay? You get exclusive access to me, exclusive content, tons of other resources, and a lot of juicy shit, okay? So I hope to see you on my Patreon.